The portals of enlightenment have opened, and your journey of mind, body, and spirit has begun. Welcome to Portals to Enlightenment. And now your host, psychic medium and traditional Chinese medicine practitioner and medical Qigong, radio show personality, as well as member of the Asian American Journalist and Media Association, psychic medium Sherry.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to Portals to Enlightenment, your journey of body, mind, and spirit. And the first thing I want to acknowledge is Happy Valentine's Day. It is Valentine's Day, and last week, Joel and I, we did a special on Valentine's Day, and we talked about you don't have to have a significant other or be married or have anything. Valentine's Day is just something that is just being with people that you enjoy. It's about loving unconditionally, and it's about loving people in general and those that are dear to your heart. So I want to wish everybody a very happy Valentine's Day. Today we're going to talk about, for the next 35 minutes, we have a veterinarian, and his name is Darrin Kortyka, and we're going to talk generally about pets and wellness. So we're going to bring Darrin on, and Darrin is not only a veterinarian since 2001, but he also has his veterinarian clinic. So we're going to bring him on.
Hi, good morning.
Hi, Darrin. How are you?
I'm well. Thanks for having me. Give me an opportunity to chat with your audience.
Yes, that's very good. And this is I love my radio show because being body, mind, and spirit, it doesn't have to be certain things. It opens up and it broadens your horizons on so many different subjects. And I thought, having a veterinarian would be just a really a different touch to the radio show. And we can all learn, even though we may not have pets in this time in our lives, that we can all learn about what it's like to, what things we can learn about having dogs and cats. And I believe that that's what you do. It's just strictly dogs and cats. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Good. So I'm going to start out with, so what, just generally speaking, what are the main things that people come to you for? Is it, generally, is it a checkup? Do they wait until they, go into crisis and then they last resort go to see you, like you're the fix-it guy kind of thing? So let's open that door up and see what what you can say about that.
Yeah, I tend to see all of that. My clinic is generally by appointments, but we tend to have a lot of emergencies that walk in. Pets don't always get sick during a particular time that I might have available. And, if they need to be seen, we try to get them in as quick as we can. And thankfully, most of my clientele is generally pretty understanding if they've got to wait a little bit, because like yesterday, I had a pet that just suddenly started having trouble breathing and had a history of heart failure. And his medication stopped working. And so we got him squeezed in. And, unfortunately, one or two of my other clients needed to wait for their patients to be seen until we got this one taken care of. But thankfully, most people that own pets are understanding. And I'm sure they understand that if it was their pet, they would hope the other people would be kind and wait too.
So what are the preventative care? As a veterinarian, what would you suggest as far as preventative care to the point where they don't have to see you in crisis situations? Can you make any suggestions or, things that whether it's ABC or whatever, what are the things right off the top that you can suggest before that they get to that point?
Well, the focus in veterinary medicine over the last 15, 20 years, I think a lot of veterinarians have really kind of dropped the ball as far as, the emphasis of pet care. For the longest time, it's always been, hey, we got to get these pets in for, yearly vaccines, and the vaccines will prevent a lot of the illness. And really the important, we can eliminate and have eliminated a lot of diseases, but really the importance is that physical exam. Having a look at the patients, allowing me to get my hands on and feeling for things like lumps and bumps that don't belong, or finding dental disease, which is something that I tend to do a lot of work with. we've just done such a horrible job, I think, in communicating the importance of me just getting a chance to look at the pets and not necessarily just getting those shots in. There's a lot of other things that we tend to find as well. We talk about some routine lab work, especially in our senior pets. If we can get that done and have a good baseline on that blood work, we can continue to screen that as they come in for those yearly wellness checkups, and maybe we can spot some changes in that lab work and prevent some diseases before they occur.
Wow.
Kidney disease, kidney damage, liver damage, and we can try to slow down that progression if we can catch it soon enough.
Oh, so speaking of liver damage and kidney damage, is it the same as cats and dogs, or is it different from cats and dogs?
Well, it tends to be a little different for cats and dogs, and also individually per pet. But yeah, with cats, our primary concern as they get older, weight loss is a real common problem with older cats, and a lot of the symptoms can look the same. They drink a lot of water and they lose weight. Well, that can be diabetes, it can be kidney disease, it can be an overactive thyroid. And without having that lab work, it may be very difficult to tell. And all of those diseases are treatable. Kidney disease is more manageable. I can't reverse that. The kidneys, you're only born with a certain number of cells, and when they're damaged, they don't regenerate, like, say, your skin or your liver. But we can try to manage it and slow down its progression.
And what about liver? What can we do with our pets with the liver? What, is that something that can be manageable or can be reversed? What's your feeling on that?
Absolutely, and depending on what the underlying cause is, a lot of liver dysfunction can be associated with infection. Sometimes it can be associated with diet. And those things can be managed. And there are some natural supplements, things like denamarin and milk thistle, that can kind of help support the liver in its healing. So we can try to repair that, minimizing certain aspects of a diet, limiting proteins and things like that. Liver and kidneys definitely do, a lot of work dealing with protein metabolism. And our senior pets especially is one of the things that's really important, is getting them onto a senior-based diet. What that will do is limit that protein, but it'll supplement it with the essential amino acids that the body needs. So there's not as much protein in there for those older organs to have to work and clear all that extra protein metabolism.
Well, I didn't know that. Wow.
It takes a lot of stress off of those older organs and makes it a lot easier on our senior pets. Those diets can add years to their life.
So let me ask you, what is considered a senior, a dog, and a senior and a cat? What's the age, or what because I have a dog that is a rescue from my shelter, and he is around a Shih Tzu. He's actually Lhasa and Shih Tzu, but he's probably about between 8 and 8.5 years old. So what is considered a senior in a dog and a cat?
Generally, seniors tend to be considered, for dogs, over 7 years of age. And cats, in my opinion, I think the standard is, they still consider 7 to 8 years old. Honestly, seniors for me really in cats tend to be 9 to 10. Kitties tend to be pretty robust animals. They tend to live a lot longer. 16 to 18 is real common in this day and age. So I really don't really consider them seniors until they're about 9 or 10.
Wow. So as a dog, when they become more senior, you don't want to incorporate so much protein. You want to be able to have a mix of vegetables and things like that. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah, a little bit more in the way of carbohydrates. Those senior diets will also lower sodium, which of course makes a big difference on heart and kidney health, blood pressure.
Oh,
They're
wow,
going to supplement with more essential fatty acids, which will also help heart and kidney health. And then, of course, because you're lowering that protein content, you're also going to lower the calorie content as well, as those seniors tend to slow down on their metabolism and help prevent some obesity issues.
Okay. And I like the chart where you see, a dog where a normal dog is supposed to be, you look down and you see the girth of the shape of the dog, and you get one that's really skinny with all the bones, and then you get the excessive ones where they look like a piece of sausage.
Yeah. Yeah, indeed. I tend to spend a lot of time talking to my clients about body condition. Everyone always asks, what weight should they be? And I'm going to be honest, I'm horrible at guessing weights. You know, should you lose 5 pounds? Should you lose 8 pounds? If I was at a county fair and they were doing that game, guess your age and weight, I mean, hey, just, you know, give me the $1 and I'll give you a prize, because I'm no good at that. What's important in dogs and cats is primarily that, and like I said, I call it a body condition. You know, I get my hands on the pet, you feel for the ribs, you give it a little gentle pressure, you should be able to feel the ribs and the little definition between the ribs. And if you have to push real hard and you can tell, yeah, I think there's ribs under there, we're too heavy.
Yeah, you got some fat, right?
you got some extra padding. Hey, it's wintertime. We all have it. I'm still working on it too.
So is your approach in veterinary medicine is more holistic? Yeah, you have the other part where you have that balance of, you know, you got to do surgery and you got to, you know, sometimes administer drugs. But do you look at it as more of a holistic approach, the whole well-being of an animal when you see them?
We do. Between the Western medicine and of course, you know, I don't rule out anything that works. You know, I'm a big believer in acupuncture, chiropractic, you know, the physical rehab, all that's important. There's a number of nutraceuticals that we found that can be very effective. You know, my training, of course, is primarily that Western medicine. But we are trying to incorporate now, there is a shift in veterinary medicine. You know, we're trying to be one of those clinics leading the way, where we're not just concerned about their physical well-being. You know, we've, again, as veterinarians, I think over the last 20 years, we've probably also neglected that mental and emotional aspect of those pets, especially when they have to come in for exams. You know, I think about these poor cats that, you know, a lot of times don't end up getting veterinary care. And you look at it from the cat's perspective and the owner's perspective, this poor cat, there's usually, for a lot of them, there's usually a big fight. We're chasing the cat around the house for, you know, half an hour because it saw the carrier and it knows it's going somewhere. You know, cats never go anywhere good when they get in the carrier, right? I mean, dogs get to go to the park, they go to the beach. You know, cats seem like they either go to the vet or they're getting dumped at a farm somewhere. You know, like, I think that's their mentality.
Wow.
So they're, you know, they're getting chased around the house. They get jammed into a carrier. You know, they get jostled into the car. You know, there's a car ride that they're not going to enjoy. And then they get brought into a noisy clinic, and usually people set the carrier on the ground, and then someone lets their dog come running right up to the carrier, and they stick their nose in it. Now the cat's really, you know, jump back and in the back of the carrier and hissing and upset. And then by the time I see it in the exam room, it's pretty unhappy. And understandably, and so I can see where, you know, owners may not want to bring these pets in because it's such a drama for the owners and for the cats. And, you know, I've had a couple of owners come in, they're pretty scratched up, they're bloody by the time they get in. And then for me to be able to do what I need to do to check out for, you know, feeling around in their belly and looking for lumps and bumps, or God forbid, try to get my fingers in their mouth to have a look for, you know, cavities and dental disease. You know, many times it's not going to happen. And of course, these things then tend to spiral, right? Every time it's traumatic, it snowballs. It was a horrible experience, you know. They went through all of this. Now I'm holding them down and I'm feeling them, and I poke them with a couple of needles for shots, and then they go back home. And to me, if I put myself in that, you know, from that point of view, well, I'd be unhappy too. So I feel it's real important, and we're trying to make a shift. And it's what's called the Fear-Free Initiative. It was something that was started a few years ago by Dr. Marty Becker. He's a legend in our industry, and he has started a training program. And people in the veterinary field can do it as individuals. I have a number of my staff, including myself, that are Fear-Free certified in their handling and treatment of these pets. We're trying to get our entire clinic certified as well. That'll take a little bit of time, considering the amount of training and the things that need to be done. But, you know, just trying to counsel my clients on, here's some ways we can try to minimize that stress at home before they even get to our clinic. And then, of course, we have a number of different things that we do at the clinic to try to minimize that additional drama.
What can
so
you
that
do?
Hopefully we can break that cycle,
Wow.
and then maybe it's not the drama for these pets to come in and get normal health care. It's amazing the number of dogs and cats that won't get regular health care just because of the drama that it is for the clients to get them into the clinic.
So what are just a few things that as a pet owner they can do to alleviate some of the emotional trauma that is associated with putting them in a carrier and things like that? What do you do? What are the few things you can suggest?
Well, certainly for cats, right, the only time they normally see that carrier is when they're headed to the veterinarian. So, and it's not easy for everyone. I get, depending on what how their house or apartment is laid out or what kind of space requirements that they have, if you can at least pull that carrier out a few days ahead of the appointment, if that's possible. Say it's just going to be a routine wellness check. We're due for a couple of vaccines. We're due for that exam. Pull that carrier out a few days ahead of time so that initial stress and drama has a chance to dissipate. And then we can try to do some things at home that will help make that carrier not so scary. We can try to just throw some treats in. We can try to put a little bedding in there. We leave the door open. It's out for a few days. If we can actually make it a part of the routine of the everyday, that can be huge too. A lot of people have cat trees for their cats. So you put that carrier out and just set it next to the cat tree. And we get fed in it from time to time. You don't have to close the door. We've got the bedding in there, and it just becomes a part of the everyday. So the cat going into the carrier is a routine everyday thing, and the stress hasn't started by the time that they're trying to get them into the carrier. Mm-hmm. Making sure that we're not that handle on top of the carrier is probably the worst thing that they can do, because you grab that carrier, now the thing's swinging around, people accidentally bang it against the door jamb on the way out. These poor pets, dogs and cats alike, in these carriers are getting jostled around. They get in the car. So holding it on the underneath and carrying it in both arms stabilizes that carrier, so there's less of that jostling around.
Wow.
What I would really like, and some of the things that people can be doing at home, is also bringing the cat or dog to the clinic hungry. Make sure they haven't had any food for a while. Because we do a lot of things. We have a number of different types of treats, various textures, flavors, in order to try to find something that will make them happy. So we can start getting a positive association with the clinic. They're coming in, they're getting peanut butter for the dogs. We've got a little bit of bacon treats. For the cats, we've actually used a lot of all things Cheese Whiz. I know it's not the healthiest thing in the world. You'd be surprised how many cats love little spray cheese. So we'll have those type of things in the clinic. We have a lot of pheromones as well that can be used at home, which we also have going at the clinic as well. Pheromones are an odorless chemical. Dogs and cats have a little organ right behind their front teeth. And when those pheromones hit that, it has a reflex that leads to a little calming sensation. And so that can eliminate some of the anxiety. It may not eliminate it completely, but it can help certainly to dampen it down. And if they have the pheromones on board before they come into the clinic, then the pheromones are also at our clinic. And we try to have separate dog and cat areas. We certainly have a cat-only exam room, so there's no dog smell in there. There's no anything like that to try to make it a little easier. We have some warm blankets, which they can sit on. We don't have the slippery surfaces anymore. We tend to go through a lot more laundry with this, but we've got some non-slip mats that we keep both on the floors for the big dogs and for the dogs and little dogs and cats. We've got some non-slip surfaces for the exam tables, so that we're able to do a little bit more there where they're not sliding around. They're not trying to just look like Wile E. Coyote spinning legs trying to get away. And we found it has made a substantial difference in some of these pets that have just been really scared to come in the past.
That's great. It's the little things that you do to make it more comfortable, not only for the dog, but also for the owners, because I imagine you're dealing with not only the pets, but you're dealing with their emotional trauma and all these, emotions with the person that brings them in. So that, you're trying to help both.
Okay, you want to throw to a break?
Because if it's going to be that much of a drama for the owners, then they're obviously not going to want to bring those pets in for that care. And then, like I said, by the time that we see some of these, it's too late. Diseases have already progressed, too far. That there's very little that can be done at that point. And of course, it's just, it's hard on the owners. It's hard on me and the staff. I don't want these poor animals being scared of me when they come in. And they have every right to be, because I'm doing things that seem unusual. I'm feeling around in the belly. They always get needles. Thankfully, we rarely take temperatures anymore. I know that's always been a big problem for a lot of the pets. They come in, they get poked and prodded, a little thermometer in the tush, mom and dad sold them out, and then they get brought back home. I don't want that to be their experience anymore.
It's pretty traumatic. So how do you deal with dog issues, behavior issues, particularly like dog aggressiveness and people aggressive? So when a person comes in to the vet, what do they do? Put a muzzle? How do you? I mean, if a person comes in and say, "My dog, I really wish I can put my dog into a dog park, or take my dog and walk past another person without biting," what do you suggest? Because I hear that a lot. Is that the people deal with dog aggressions or people aggression? What do you suggest on that?
Yeah. Geez, we could do a whole show on that, and probably
we could do that
later. There's no, I will be honest, for something like that, there is no quick fix. There's no pill that will fix that. There's not one technique that will stop that from happening. And as a disclaimer, any pet that's aggressive, whether it's to people, whether it is to other dogs, you can do anything and everything, but still at some point you can't 100% trust that it may not happen again, that there might not be a trigger that sets them off and leads to it. You always need to be a little bit on guard. But absolutely, there are a number of things that you can do to try to reduce some of that stress and anxiety. And to start with, like for when an aggressive dog comes into our clinic, whether it is dog aggressive, whether it's people aggressive, whether it's fear aggressive, which is unfortunate for a lot of my patients because of the experiences that they've had in the past. And again, which is why we're trying to change things with our Fear-Free initiative. What we can be doing, safety is always first, but we can look at certain things that we can be doing at home. And again, we come back to the pheromones for a mild anxiety or mild fearfulness. Pheromones can be very effective. I have a natural supplement called Zilkene, which is casein protein. It's a milk protein, but it can also have an anti-anxiety property to it. And for those mild cases, that can certainly help. For those cases that are known to be, let's just say, a little more aggressive, that they're willing to lunge, that they are that aggressive that people don't want to bring them into the clinic, we can give them anti-anxiety medications. Even the pharmacy board requires me generally, especially with pharmaceuticals, that I need to see them within a calendar year. They have made an exception for these pets that are that fearful or that aggressive that I can give them anti-anxiety medications. I can prescribe those before they come into the clinic and before I have a medical relationship with the pet. Ideally, what we do with those, whether they're trazodone or gabapentin, they are human medications. Some of your listeners may be familiar with those medications. They can be used generally safely with almost any condition. And of course, we'll get some information from the owners prior to writing that prescription. But if we can get that on board at least 2 to 3 hours in advance of their examination, what that does is prevent that ramp up in that anxiety. And so then the hope is that we're able to get them in the door. We'll do our best to try to schedule them at a time where maybe there's not a lot going on in the waiting room, in the lobby, or if there is, that we try to get them directly into an examination room so that they're not waiting and that they're not building that anxiety. And then, muzzles, it's always safety first for the owners, for my staff, and of course for the pet. And sometimes a muzzle is necessary because even with medications, you can't necessarily trust them not to bite 100%. But a muzzle can also, if it's even just loose, can be enough of a distraction that they think that maybe that weapon is taken away. And sometimes they can, be much more easily worked with.
Right, right. And I see some dogs with muzzles, and I'm thinking, yeah, they're probably biting, have a biting issue, so that's why they have to keep their mouth, shut. hmm Yeah, that's
Yeah,
crazy. What
they
about,
can, but given time, and speaking some of these aggressive issues, out at the dog park or other things, if you're in and around the neighborhood, the worst thing that I think anyone can do when it comes to an aggression issue is use any kind of physical discipline with the aggression. It will, and you talk to any behaviorist, it will make that aggression worse. Because now you're, either hitting them with a newspaper or you're spanking them, you're causing pain when they're already angry. It is going to make that problem worse. So bribery is important, and is probably the key in what we can do. Again, safety is always first, but if you're looking at, I want to try to get my dog more socialized, so, you being out in Forest Grove, Thatcher Park is nearby, right? It's a big fenced in dog park. You can keep your pet on the outside of that fence. And then that way there is some interaction that they are seeing these other dogs. But then what we can be doing is some of the training in that setting. You can bring your bag of treats, whether it's little pieces of hot dog, or whatever their favorite treat is, something that's going to keep their attention. And when they see another dog and they start to get, that workup, that you see that they've keyed in and the hackles go up and they start to grumble a little bit, that's the time to make them stop. You want to make them sit, have them look at you. And that's the command. You need to train a look at me command. And then when they do look at you and they sit and they're quiet in the presence of the other dogs, then they're getting rewarded. We give those treats. If they get to the point where they're not listening to you, you can't get them to do that sit and look at me, then you're going to back further away from the fence, from that other animal. We're going to go away until where your pet settles down. And then you make them sit, you do that look at me command, and we continue to reinforce that so that hopefully over time, as we get closer and closer, to those other animals, to that fence, what they're doing is they're sitting and they're looking at you and they're waiting for a treat. And so we're reconditioning their response. So instead of the hackles go up and I got to, lunge, I'm going to sit and I'm going to look up at mom and dad, wait for a treat. And then after that, then we can start working with, some, other situations. Maybe we can go into, a Home Depot, or we go around the neighborhood and we use a family or friend's dog that we think we can probably get away with, and try to have it in controlled situations and build it up. But those kind of things take months to even years sometimes.
it's really that long?
In order to make that change.
And especially as a dog, you don't know what their history is, or it has anxiety issues. You don't know what you're up against, right, Darrin? I mean, it's like if a dog has some type of aggression, you need to find out what's triggering it and how to deal with it. And like you said, it's not going to be a 1 week thing where it's just going to stop all of a sudden.
Absolutely. And I think that, that is a problem that with a lot of people's perception. Well, I should just be able to put them on Prozac and that should fix the problem. Well, no pill fixes those type of behavior issues. And whether it's aggression or whether it is something else, pills are only an adjunctive treatment. You still need to do the behavioral training and some of those modifications. And whether that's asking your regular veterinarian, or whether, the condition is severe enough that you need to see a behavioral specialist, at least then you have those tools in your bag.
Wow. What's your feeling on CBD on pets?
Over the last year and a half, I've had a lot of these conversations, especially with the changing in the law. My understanding is the FDA still considers CBDs a natural or an essential oil. So it is not restricted in any way. Haven't spoken with a lot of my clients about it. I still notice that there's a stigma because I think they feel they're going to need to go to a dispensary somewhere and there's going to be, someone's going to judge me or they're going to see me walking into the place. The CBDs can be attained, a number of different places. Some of the feed stores, pet stores, Amazon. There are a number of other places that are a little more regulated. I think it's called vetcbd.com, canapet.com. These are a little bit more regulated, standardized essential oils. The CBDs are a little more regulated. What we need to do is make sure that it is a pure CBD. You do not want anything that is going to have the recreational component associated with it. And since the law has changed, dealt with a lot more of the marijuana overdoses in my patients because there is more accessibility. But CBDs, absolutely. As far as anxiety, it really can be hit or miss as far as whether it will help with anxiety or not. It's certainly worth trying. I find that there is a wide dosing range for dogs on that. And so it may take multiple attempts at trying to find a dose that works.
Okay, great.
I have used it on my last dog for some of his dementia and arthritis issues. It does have some pain components, pain management components to it. And it works very well for some of my patients. Some patients may not see as much of a difference, but that's the same as any Western medication. You know,
Exactly.
Advil works great for me and Tylenol doesn't touch me.
Exactly. So before we go, the last thing I want to ask you before we leave is any type of weather precautions. You know, we have here in the Pacific Northwest, we're having all kinds of, snow and freezing rain. And I imagine back east is going to be worse, with everything else. Do you have any type of suggestions or any precautions that, what we have with our pets as far as the weather conditions and how to keep them safe?
Well, for the current weather conditions, I mean, absolutely, having some of the fleece coats, especially for the short-haired, dogs. People that have primarily outdoor dogs, please bring those pets inside, whether it's at least even getting them into the garage out of the wind and having a space heater in there if you don't have a heated garage, not leaving them out for, maybe more than 5 to 10 minutes. If there's a lot of snow and ice on the ground, you don't want to be leaving them out long. I mean, if you can't go out and hang out there barefoot very long, then they probably shouldn't be either. And to me, that's just as important in the summertime. People think the sun goes down, the pavement's not hot anymore. You're walking along, you've got shoes on, and you're 5-6 feet tall. You don't feel that heat on that pavement. But those little pets that are just, 6-8 inches off the ground, they're baking. So yeah, if you can't, especially in the summer, if you can't keep your hand on that pavement for at least 5 seconds, don't be taking your pets out for a walk.
Wow, that's very good suggestion. It's also common sense too. And our pets are like our children or part of our family. And, if you don't want to do that to your own children, your human children, if you have any, why would you want to do that to your pet? I think that's, that's just common sense. But Darrin, thank you so much for your time and being able to share with the listeners all the little tidbits that you have given us in the last half an hour, 35 minutes, and just really appreciate it. Would love to have you back. There's so much to talk about in the world of veterinary medicine, and would love to have you back in the near future.
Great. I'd love to be back. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Hey, guys, thank you for listening. And, yeah, Darrin's just a lot of information, and I have to even think now my pet is a senior, too. So, yes, it's really interesting to know different angles of it. And for us as pet owners, just being more aware and being more mindful of how we can do what we can do in the whole wellness of our fur babies. So until the next week, we will talk to you later. And I want to thank each and every one of you, just not only supporting me, but just to be able to listen for half an hour. And I hope everything that comes on, you guys get some information you can maybe learn and grow. So that's what it's all about. Happy Valentine's Day. Take care. Thanks a lot, everybody. Peace.
The portal has closed for this week, but will reopen next Saturday when psychic medium Sherry returns with a new guest and another step in the journey of mind, body, and spirit. If you would like to find out more about Sherry or book a reading, you can do it on Facebook. Just look up Psychic Medium Sherry or at tinyurl.com/SherryWebb. Thanks for tuning in, and we will see you again next week.